religious topic in it. Again, this is always the hypocrisy of everything, but trying to figure out which one I want to use. No, I'm gonna use this one.
Hello, Progressive Christian.
Oh, hi, Amanda.
I just wanted to give a short, quick response to everything you said in your video.
Great, except you didn't respond to anything that I actually said in the video, and the thing that you said that I said, I didn't actually say, so I'm confused, but that's okay. Let's move on.
And listen, I want you to understand that I am not here to judge or condemn.
Oh, thank God, 'cause me neither.
My only goal, I understand that you want to be inclusive and all that, and inclusivity is a wonderful thing. But if inclusivity is at the cost of rejecting what God orders us to do, then that's not okay.
It is not okay to reject what God orders us to do. Okay, I see your point.
What he said to Mary Magdalene when he saved her from being stoned to death.
So one of the things that's interesting about this story found in John chapter 8 is that Mary Magdalene is never mentioned. In fact, you have added Mary Magdalene to the story. And that might not seem like a very big deal to you, but according to God, it is a big deal. And it is a rejection of what God orders us to do, because plainly in God's holy word, in Revelation chapter 22, it says this: I warn everyone who hears the words of the prophecy of this book. If anyone adds anything to them, God will add to him the plagues described in this book. Amanda, you have added Mary Magdalene to John chapter 8. God directly says that that is a rejection of what God says. And so for that, God will add plagues to your life. And Amanda, here is where we find the problem. Whenever we use scripture as an excuse to accuse others of being sinful, we find that scripture accuses us of being sinful. That is why in John chapter 8, it is the religious hypocrites who come to Jesus accusing the woman of sin and wanting to stone her to death. And Jesus says, stop using scripture in that way. Why? Because when we do, we find that we are the ones who are living in sin. And the person's sin that you should be most concerned about is your own. God bless.
I always find that fun. But yeah, anyway, I'm not gonna sit here and let this devolve into another let's attack all the Christians thing. But yeah, it's always fun when someone who is regurgitating what they have been told runs up against someone who has studied what they're talking about. And you can name the subject, but that is always interesting. Like, you watched a YouTube video and he read all the books. So yeah.
The only reason I want to show this, because it's not a attack on Christianity, it's attack on the people who use Christianity as a weapon. It is totally two different people. You may want to try to use it as you're attacking Christianity. No,
that's not what I was saying about you, Marlon. I was just saying, like,
no. I'm talking to them. I'm talking to them, not you. I'm not. I know we're in a total agreement. I'm talking to the people who use Christianity as a weapon. Pure and simple. You using it as a weapon. You have a bigotry, you have a racism, and then you go find a scripture to make that your bigotry and racism and xenophobic and everything else is correct. And I really, really need you to stop doing that.
They can't stop.
They don't want to stop. It ain't that.
No, they literally cannot stop. They are the victims of poor teaching. Like it's like generational, and it builds on top of each other, and it, kind of things. It's really interesting, Mickey.
I've literally heard that argument before.
No, but I've heard that as well. But that's usually because these are liberals who are trying to help some of these Bible thumpers slow down and think for a second. Like, you're trying to be literal, and here, let me tell you what literally your book says.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound so good, does it? Right? But what I always found interesting, which I think is just a fun side conversation, is originally in chapter 1, God created man. But then it was in chapter 2 that he created Adam and Eve. So by that logic, that would explain why when Adam and Eve had their children, that the human race didn't die out, because as they were expelled from the Garden of Eden, they then mixed with the other people. So Adam and Eve were not the first, even by this, I call it a fantasy story, but even by that story, they weren't the first, but they were like his redo, or his first in his own heart type of thing, because he used a similar creation story for chapter 1 and chapter 2, but he was talking about two different sets of people. So I just think that was pretty neat. So it's not that the Bible is, the Bible is pretty inerrant, and it's pretty full of errors in a lot of places, but that's because of political interference from people over time. Because personally, as I've said to my pastor, and I've said to people plenty of times, my God is too big to be fit. It's too big to fit in your book. So the Bible is to help us. The Quran and the Torah, they're all there to help us walk towards the truth that God has for us. But we get so stuck in the text that we end up fighting over the words. I think that's a big reason why, no matter what version you read of the Bible, Jesus always spoke in allegory and fable, because you could find the deeper meaning behind what he's saying, regardless of the time in which you're following behind it. Right? But if he just literally went word for word, strict verbiage, then a lot would get lost. So that's just my take, though.
Okay. Tracy, is this the Fifth Amendment you taking?
This is the Fifth Amendment.
Okay.
I can